What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Too Good for Theaters video. Today, we're going to be discussing the NFL draft for the 2025 season and who really is the top prospect in this NFL draft and if they're going to be available to the New England Patriots. Most likely not, but we're going to be discussing Travis Hunter versus Abdul Carter, so let's get right into it. So starting off here with Travis Hunter, one of the most dynamic athletes that we have seen come out of the college ranks in a couple of years here. And of course, he is the quote-unquote two-way player of this year's NFL draft. And he really is kind of the first of this breed for someone who can play offense and defense. He's really going to have to pick a position here in the NFL. I understand that he wants to continue to do this two-way kind of player status, but that's going to be extremely difficult for NFL teams to manage. And with the possibility of injuries, as well as just the production on both sides, is it really going to truly be there at the top level? He probably is going to have to end up picking a position. Me, personally, I believe he is overall a better corner, but I do think that he is going to end up being a wide receiver in this league, just because it's going to help him out more financially. Wide receivers are going to get more money than corners will at the end of the day. And personally, I think that he is a much bigger need for the Patriots at wide receiver rather than corner. But of course, if he is playing a little bit of two-way, it sure does help if he is going to be on the outside, opposite of Christian Gonzalez. So let's break down his defensive stats in the 2025 season. According to PFF, he had a overall defensive grade of 88.2, a run defense grade of 78.8, a tackling grade of 72.3, an elite coverage grade of 90.3. And going over some of his stats here, he had a total of 32 tackles, only had 6 missed tackles for around a missed tackle percentage of 14%, and drew 11 penalties, or 4 penalties were thrown against him on the defensive side of the ball. He was targeted 41 times in coverage, only allowed 23 receptions, had 7 pass breakups, 4 interceptions, and he only allowed 1 touchdown while in coverage there. And really, you have to set the bar so high for Travis Hunter. I believe he is one of, if not the best corner in this draft. And the only other corner that you can really compare to him, I would say, is Michigan's Will Johnson. And that really just shows how much of a dynamic athlete that Travis Hunter is. For him to be that productive on the defensive side of the ball, and then, of course, as productive on the offensive side of the ball as well, really just shows how interesting of a player that Travis Hunter is. And it's going to be revolutionary if he is able to succeed as this two-way player in the NFL. But speaking of his offensive production, let's go over to his offensive stats here. He had an overall grade of 86.3, a receiving grade of 89, and a run block grade of 41.7. And of course, these grades are, as I stated before, coming from PFF, Pro Football Focus. But he was targeted 121 times. He really was the mainstay of that Buffalo offense and certainly became Shador's favorite target. He came down with 96 receptions for a receiving rate of damn near 80%, which is honestly incredible, even at the college level. Really just shows how productive he was. Came down with 1,258 yards, had around 13 yards per reception, so hopefully that's an area that can translate well to this Patriots offense if he is drafted in that area. He came down with 15 touchdowns, just showing how much of a dynamic athlete he is, whether it's in the red zone, being a red zone target for Drake May, or just being able to be an explosive player on the outside that Drake May really can target. Of course, we know how much Drake May loves to throw the deep ball, so getting a dynamic athlete like Travis Hunter on this side of the ball would do things for Drake May that we really haven't seen here in New England from the wide receiver position, damn near since Randy Moss probably. But as I was saying before, the average depth of target is around 11 yards. He had a contested catch rate of 64.7%. Officially, it was 11 of 17 balls that were contested that he ended up catching. He only had 3 drops for around a drop percentage of 3%, so very steady hands. Wouldn't have to worry much about that translating to the NFL. However, we did say that about Jalen Polk, and Jalen Polk had a ton of drops last season, so it really is going to just depend on the player here. But Travis Hunter is definitely a different breed compared to Jalen Polk. He had a 142.7 rating while he was being thrown to, so him and Shador had great chemistry, and they had a ton of success there in Colorado, and he only had one penalty thrown against him. Travis Hunter really was used exclusively as the X receiver, or at least playing on the outside in the Buffalo offense. But an area that I think really could help change this Patriots offense that Travis Hunter will bring is the yards after the catch. He's that explosive of an athlete. He's still not the best route runner. I don't want to say he's a poor route runner because he's still a very good route runner, but he does have to refine that area of his game, especially if he is going to play here in New England. We know how much Josh McDaniels kind of loves those route runners here. But really, if they're able to integrate him into this offense well, he's going to be able to take advantage of yards after the catch, and we really haven't seen a lot of receivers here in New England that's had a ton of success in that category since guys like Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, and honestly, that's probably when this offense is working at its best, when it's clicking the most, is when guys are able to catch the ball and make plays and get easy yardage after for the young quarterback, especially that rookie quarterback being Drake May, with having to do so much last season. It really felt like guys weren't able to kind of extend plays for him and get him more easy yardage. So hopefully that would be an area that Travis Hunter would be able to kind of translate over to the NFL here and take advantage of here in this Patriots system. But it's going to be really interesting to see if Travis Hunter falls down to the New England Patriots. So moving over to the next prospect we're going to be talking about here, my personal favorite, that being Abdul Carter. And of course, Abdul Carter has really kind of shown himself to be the best edge rusher of this draft class and probably the best overall defensive prospect of this draft class as well. But when you hear about Abdul Carter, it's going to be very similar to a guy that we're well aware of, one of the best edge defenders in the NFL at this point, that being Micah Parsons. Of course, Micah Parsons played a little bit of linebacker before moving over to the edge at Penn State, and that is the exact path that Abdul Carter has also taken. Of course, in the previous season, he had Chop Robinson playing in front of him, so that's fully understandable. Another first-round pick to the Miami Dolphins in this last year's NFL draft, but really kind of opened up his game here for Abdul Carter to be translated to the edge, and he really just took off. And we're going to go over some of his defensive stats. But before we do that, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about where he was aligned in this 2024 season compared to this 2023 season. So in this previous season, he was lined up on the defensive line, 642 snaps compared to only 90 box snaps. Where if you look at his 2023 season, it was basically a reverse of that, where he was on the D-line only 94 snaps. He was in the box 470 times. And even played a little bit of slot corner with that registering around 22 times. But it really just kind of shows how Penn State shifting him to the defensive line just opened up his game. But taking a look at his 2024 defensive grade and stats, he had an overall defensive grade of 91.2, a run defense grade of 78.2, a tackling grade of 64.8, an elite pass rush grade of 92.3, and a pretty solid coverage grade of 81.8. So on the season, he actually registered 39 total tackles. He had 10 missed tackles for around a missed tackle percentage of 16.7. He had a total of 43 defensive stops, and a defensive stop is qualified as a play that results in a failure for the offense, which I believe is like 1 to 3 yards. So anything below 3 yards would be a successful play for the defense. He had 1 batted ball, but this is where you get into the main core of his defensive stats. He had a total of 66 pressures, 43 hurries, 10 QB hits, 13 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and he was targeted 3 times, allowed 2 receptions, and he also had 2 pass breakups there. So obviously the huge number that stands out there is 66 total pressures. He had a ton of sacks, 13 sacks this upcoming season. I believe that was one of the top in the nations. And that really just kind of showed how Abdul Carter kind of developed his game into an elite edge rusher. And he's just extremely quick off the edge. He still has a little bit of refinement to do in terms of power moves, but he really does a great job of using his side and his speed to take advantage of tackles who can't get off the line quickly. And he has a multitude of moves, whether it's a spin move or kind of a swim move back to the inside, to really take advantage of tackles that have poor footwork. And it really just shows with all the production that he had last season, having a ton of games where he was able to register multiple sacks. And of course, he played a huge part in that Penn State defense. And of course, how Penn State was able to translate well to the college football playoff and get as far as they did there. But moving over to his 2023 season, which he was more so in the box for, he actually had a defensive grade of 69.7, a run defense grade of 60.1, a tackling grade of 35.9. Very similar pass rush grade, so it was pretty easy to translate over. I see why Penn State obviously moved him over to the defensive line with an pass rush grade of 90.3 and a coverage grade of 54.8. In the 2023 season, he had a total of 33 tackles. He had 16 missed tackles for around a missed tackle percentage of 28.1. He had a total of 31 defensive stops, another batted ball. He had 28 pressures, 18 hurries, 6 QB hits, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble. And he was targeted 21 times and allowed 16 receptions for around a reception rate of 76.2%. So you can really see the numbers kind of stand out where he was on the defensive line compared to being a linebacker. And even going back to his 2022 season, it was kind of weird because he had a much better rookie season at the college level than he did a sophomore season at that linebacker position. He had a defensive grade of 76.2, a run defense grade of 83, a tackling grade of 73, a pass rush grade of 76.9, and a coverage grade of 59.5. But he registered a total of 42 tackles, 8 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. So really the glimpses of him being a very good pass rusher was always there. He has very good size for that. He's 6'3", 252 pounds, and like I said before, he really knows how to utilize all his talent and his speed off the edge to take advantage of bad tackle play. And he certainly did that against a pretty good competition this past season as well. So that's why, in my personal opinion, I'm hoping that the Patriots are able to draft Abdul Carter in this upcoming season. I do think that edge rusher is a little bit more of a needed position than wide receiver and corner right now for the New England Patriots. Not by much, but I just think that Abdul Carter is the best overall prospect in this NFL draft. But hell, if you told me that the Patriots get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at number 4 overall, I would be ecstatic. I'm really praying that Miami or Tennessee takes Cam Ward because I do think that that possibly puts some pressure on quarterback needy teams who are a little more higher on Shedeur Sanders than maybe others. Maybe guys like the Raiders or, of course, the Browns and the Giants who hold the 2nd and 3rd overall picks. If they're able to take a quarterback and Cam Ward is taken 1st overall, I think that there's a really good chance that either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter is going to be coming to the New England Patriots. And I understand that there's been a lot of talk about the Patriots trading down here and potentially taking an offensive tackle. Well, I say to hell with that. If the New England Patriots have a chance to draft Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, they have to do it. They're the 2 best overall prospects in this NFL draft. And you have the entirety of free agency coming up to really attack that offensive line issue that you have. You have a couple of top-tier offensive tackles on the open market. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this free agency period plays out and how it actually impacts the NFL draft for your New England Patriots here. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below of what you would do with the 4th overall pick if you were the New England Patriots. I look forward to making some more NFL prospect videos here coming out for this NFL draft. So you can look forward to that, and hopefully some of you will tune into those as well. But that's going to wrap up this video. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.